Hello there, and welcome to a black screen because ESO is downloading an update. And, well, instead of just waiting for an update to install and not doing anything with my time, I figured I'd just might as well just chat for a little bit. I do want to see. Can I capture the launcher? Just out of curiosity. I don't think I can. Is that even the right thing? We've got launcher, Vtuber Studio, Realtek audio console. Don't know why that's a thing. OneNote, Elgato. Yeah, I'm assuming it's just, the Bethesda.net launcher, which it seems like it doesn't want to capture, which is fine. Sure, whatever. Yeah, we're just gonna, I guess, chat a little bit while this is our black screen. Have a massive update to install. I'm guessing it's related to the Lost Depths DLC and update 35. So, yeah, this is a thing. Frankly, it's a bit, I don't know if ironic is the right word exactly, but a little bit ironic that the very first time I decide to stream this game, there's a massive update that I have to download. By the way, if you're curious, currently the download is at 20%. And I started the download like 20 minutes ago. So let's hope the actual math works out so it's not going to be an entire hour. That would not be great. But yeah, so it's a little ironic that at the very first time I decide to stream this game, I get hit with a massive patch. You know why I call that ironic? Well, it's frankly part of the reason why I stopped playing the game, and also just why I hate modern day AAA games in general, is they're always constantly updating, and the updates aren't super, they take too long, because these games have massive file sizes, right? They got huge file sizes because they're trying to fit an entire huge game world, because bigger is better, apparently. They're trying to fit this huge, massive, ginormous game world with the best graphics you've ever damn seen, and it can barely fit onto a 1 terabyte hard drive. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but only a slight exaggeration. These are huge games, the biggest fat fucking file sizes you've ever seen, and I hate it. Because here's the thing, if I want to play a game, if I'm in the mood to play a game, I want to open the game and play it. That's the general idea. I don't know why that's such a difficult thing to wrap your mind around, but the problem with these modern day AAA games is that's not super possible. You kind of have to anticipate in the future, I'm going to be planning like it, I guess it's a little bit easier if you're planning a stream, and it is kind of on me for not checking to see if there was an update before the stream. But yeah, it's on you to try and anticipate if you will soon A, have the time to play the game later, and B, be in the mood to play the game later. And if both of those are true, then it's on you to open the game, leave the launcher running, and leave your computer just like, don't do anything to your computer for a solid hour. And it's like, who has the time for that? No one in the modern day has the time for waiting for a game to update. This is why games need to be smaller. I don't give a damn if they have to sacrifice graphics. I especially don't give a damn if they have to sacrifice the world size. Because I should not have to be in the mood to play a game and then open said game and then, oops, there's an update that I have to install first, and then, well, I guess for the next hour I'm going to do something entirely different because I do not have time to just use this time in which I was wanting to play the game to do something else. Like, it's actively a disincentive. Like, think about psychology here, like, and keep in mind, I'm not a psychologist. I took a few psychology classes in high school and college, so take what I say with a little grain of salt, but there is, like, you know, like, people like to get immediate results. Like, if you, like, think of the rat experiments, you know, where they use rats, the rat presses the liver, and they get a treat. By the way, the download has slowed down to a massive crawl. We're still only up to 21%. I'm gonna be honest, it's entirely possible we will not be able to stream the game tonight. Also, fun fact. Yeah, like, okay, it again is probably entirely on me for hitting that go live button, because that's probably eating up the bandwidth that should be entirely dedicated towards getting this download going. But no, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the fact that the game industry has this big dick mentality that leads games to have these huge file sizes that actively hinder gamers. So, I'm just gonna, real quick, because I do not anticipate us actually making it to our character screen, I'm gonna just change the stream title right now to, Haru Rants about modern games, I guess? Modern games. Haru Rants about modern games. Alright, change the stream title. Let's go. So, yeah, basically, yeah. You know the whole rat experiment where, you know, this is testing, I can't remember the name of it. It's like there's like a consistent reward where every time a rat pushes a lever, they get a treat. There's the inconsistent reward where they can push the lever a certain amount of times, and after a certain number of times they get a treat. And then there's like the time-based one where it's like they press the lever and it doesn't matter how many times they press the lever, but they're still not going to get a treat for another 10 minutes. And then there's the what isn't there a fourth one? Maybe there's only 3. But point being, the point being, think of clicking on the game that you want to play as the pressing a lever, you know? So you press the lever and you expect a reward, being able to play that game. Ideally, best case scenario, you press the lever and immediately get rewarded for it. You know, that's the most, like, satisfactory result. You know, the most satisfactory result is you know you're going to be able to just push that lever and get your reward. Then there's the, we'll call it the gotcha scenario, where you push the lever a certain number of times. Oh, I remember. Yeah, there was a consistent number of times and an inconsistent number of times. So, like, if you press the lever 5 times, every 5 times you get a treat. Or if you press the lever 2 to 5 times, every 2 to 5 times you're going to get a treat. And it's not exactly consistent as to how frequent that's going to be. Of course, the method that gets you to more frequently push the lever is the one where it gives you an inconsistent reward path, where you're not sure how many times you're going to have to press the lever to get the treat, but you do know you can press it constantly and eventually you will get a treat. So it's that kind of, think of it as like a determined panic mindset, you know, where it's like, I have no idea if this lever press is going to take, 10 times, or if it's going to take 500 times, but eventually I'm going to get my fucking treat and I want to be rewarded for it. But of course, like, 500 times is maybe too much, because, like, after a certain number of times you start just thinking, oh, maybe the dispenser has just run out of treats, But this is the gotcha mechanic. This is what gets people addicted to gotcha games. Like, why they're so addictive in the first place is that rat experiment, because we are like those rats, we have a treat in mind, that 5-star poll on Genshin Impact or whatever. We have that treat in mind. And rolling for the gotcha is the pressing the lever. And in order to get that satisfactory reward, pulling that 5-star, you have to push the lever an inconsistent number of times. You have no idea if it's going to happen after the first time or if it's going to happen after the 50th time, but you do know it is going to eventually happen, and so you keep pushing the lever. That's how gotcha games work. What we're talking about here, though, with modern day, what we're talking about here, hello, seahorse. Yeah, what we're talking about here is modern day games, because modern day games have this problem, and this is especially with online games because they're the ones that have the forced updates and the forced frequent updates. Because their file sizes are so big, because modern day games are so focused on making the biggest world possible with the best graphics possible, the file size is fucking massive. Like, back in the day on, say, the Xbox 360, I could have probably several games, like, in the double digits, like 20-something games just download on the hard drive, and it'd be no problem. These days, on a computer with a 1 terabyte hard drive, I could maybe squeeze 5 of these games in. Maybe. You know, I could have ESO, I could have, like, I could have Destiny 2, I have no idea how big Final Fantasy 14 is, but probably about the same size. You know, big games. Big fucking games. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you are not free of this. Big games. Because bigger is better, right? Bigger is better. So we have these big games that are having to constantly be updated because they're online games. Even the single player stuff has online things. Valhalla, again, why the fuck do you have online stuff? You're a single player game. But they have like these online things, and so they're having to constantly roll out updates, and every single update, because the game is massive, is going to take a long time. And this is where we get to, going back to the lever pushing experiment, the time-oriented one. And this is, believe it or not, I think, is the one that results in the rat pressing the lever the least amount of times. Because once the rat realizes that it pressing the lever does not actually... First of all, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to get the treat at all, but second of all, like, the number of times it presses said lever isn't going to change how frequently it gets the treat. That's what this is. Because no matter how many times I try and close and reopen the launcher, I'm still going to have to wait for that update to install, and so I'm being disincentivized to interact with this game. Because the game is so big, it's going to take a long time, and by the time the download finishes, my stream is going to be over, because I'm going to have to go to bed. The few hours in my evening that I had after work to play a game that I wanted to play will have been used up watching a bar move across the screen until it reaches 100%. Instead of having been able to use that time to explore the world of Tamriel. This is a problem with modern gaming, because they want their games to be the biggest possible games they could ever conceive of, because bigger is better, you know? It's like... It's not enough to just be like, hey, you can explore the world of Tamriel. No, the world of Tamriel has to be a 1-to-1 size of, like, fucking North America, or however big Tamriel's supposed to be, like, Europe. It's a 1-to-1 size of Europe, I don't know. I guess the game is maybe slightly scaled down from that, but still, like, it's... The idea is that it's big, and everyone wants a big game. You know why everyone wants a big game? Well, that's the thing. No one actually wants a big game, but the big game devs believe that's the case. And why do they believe that's the case? Or rather, why do they want to trick us? Why do they want to gaslight us into believing that's the case? Well, the bigger the game is, the more time you spend playing it. Because let's just, for example, let's just say you have a map that's the size of, like, England. A map the size of England. Now, how long does it how long does it take you to get from one end of England to the next? It's going to take a long fucking time. If the game were smaller, if the game were like much more reasonably sized, it would take you about 10 minutes, you know? I think 10 minutes is about the maximum size length. Like, you can vary that a little bit, but roughly 10 minutes to get from one end of the map to the other is plenty. And do you know why that's plenty? Because it's not going to take you 10 minutes. Because there's going to be a lot of stuff in between one side and the next, you know? So the game itself doesn't need to be big. It just needs to have the illusion of bigness. And do you know what that does? It saves space. And saving space is really important because you know what's not fun in gaming? Massive breadths of nothing. Like, I'll admit, as a person who loves Skyrim is like my favorite game of all time. One of my favorite things that keeps drawing me back to Skyrim is the exploration. I love going on those journeys from like Whiterun to Solitude. You know, those are like my favorite parts of the game is I start in Whiterun, I go to Solitude. But do you know what the difference is? There isn't that massive amount of blank space. Sure, some white space is necessary, and actually, like, if utilized correctly, gives you like that nice breath of fresh air where you can kind of introspect and just enjoy the environment around you. But it keeps the game lively for several reasons. You know, it's not just a completely uneventful journey from Whiterun to Solitude. You're going to run into various locations and various settlements and various RNG like encounters. And this is what you'll experience in like a D&D game, right? In like, of course, if the DM doesn't want you to like, if the DM just wants to fast travel you to like the next big story location, the DM will fast travel you to the next big story location, but that's not the point, is it? The point is the journey. And so the DM is going to have these random encounters along the journey, and that's what keeps the game interesting. You never know what you're going to run into the next day while you're continuing your journey to continue the main quest. And that's kind of the role Skyrim's random encounters plays. Like, they take that big, they take that, what the DM is doing to keep you interested and keep you on your toes. So, yeah, like, meanwhile, so I think Skyrim does it perfectly. Skyrim hits that sweet spot of it gives you enough time to just breathe and relax and introspect and enjoy your environment. But it also sprinkles in a bit of action in there. You know, it sprinkles in those random encounters and locations. You will come across many caves and fortresses, and whether or not you choose to explore them, they are at least there to give your environment a bit of something interesting. Now, let's take a look at modern games that want to be big and don't really care about building the world in a way that makes the game seem bigger than it actually is. Let's talk about Valhalla. Valhalla, I feel like when I play that game, I feel there's a lot more empty space. Like, unlike Skyrim, where there's definitely always something around the corner, but not too close to where you're overwhelmed, but also not too far to where you get bored. Valhalla makes it too far. And you know why they make it too far? Because they made their game too fucking big. And they made their game too fucking big because they want you to play the game for as long as possible. Because that's how they keep you invested. That's how they keep you playing their game. And yet, here's the problem. This modern day gaming concept of games being as big as physically possible has the issue of, like, there's an ambulance, I think. Yeah, it has the issue of no one has the time for that. Like, it's assuming that you have this much free time in your life to spend this much time playing the game, right? Ooh, look, the download is speeding up. We actually might get there sometime soon. Ooh, that's good. That is good stuff. We're already up to 50%. Nice. So yeah, we might actually get to character creation tonight. But yeah, that's the thing, you know? The problem with, like, the problem with modern games is that they make their games too big because they want to keep you playing the game as much as possible, but there's too many games to choose from, you know? Like, you could, like, you've got ESO, you've got Final Fantasy 14, you've got like the latest Assassin's Creed game, you've got whatever else is out there. Like, what are the kids playing these days? There's like Apex, there's Valorant, there's Overwatch, like League of Legends, all these games. So many games. Too many games. Who has time to play your one game that is the size of, like, England? Who has time for that? No one. No one has time for that because people have school, people have work, people have responsibilities. The people that they're trying to cater to don't have the time to invest into the thing that they're trying to make you do. So what we have is, like, yeah, what we have is people with real life responsibilities wanting to enjoy your game, wanting to play your game, wanting to explore your game, and not having the time to do so. And a significant portion of that time, I'm going to lowball maybe about 5% of the time. Hello, coffee mug. I'm going to lowball and say maybe about 5% of the time that you're dedicating to these games is spent waiting for them to download patches. That's, like, I think that's a reasonable estimate. Like, about 5% of the time, that the limited time you have in your 24 hours of life, 8 hours of working, 6 to 8 hours of sleep, and then, like, however much time you need to dedicate to getting ready for bed, how much time you need to dedicate to getting ready for work, how much time you need to dedicate to all sorts of other responsibilities. You know, you need to go grocery shopping to buy food. You need to, like, do all these things in your life. You only have a set amount of hours in your day to enjoy games or whatever other source of media that you choose to enjoy on that evening. You know, maybe you'll choose Netflix or something. Oh, would you look at that? We're at 100%. Why can I not click play? There we go. Yeah, so... Yeah, we really, like... They're assuming that we have more time than we have, and they're eating up a significant portion of that time waiting for the game to download. Like, let me tell you... I mean, that's also completely fair, and don't get me wrong, like, there are several people who are like that. I mean, hell, like, even I, on some evenings, will just be like, you know what, fuck it, we're just gaming as soon as I get off work, and then I just, like, play games for the entire evening. That's a thing that I do sometimes, but I'm also an adult who lives on her own, has her own responsibilities to do various things, like... Alright, hang on. Let's get this game capture going. Like, I don't have the time in my day-to-day life to dedicate to, like, not only waiting for your game to download its patch, but also playing your game. I can do either or. I can either wait for the game to download its patch, or I can play the game. And, like, that's the issue with, like, yeah, like, with the ESO and whatnot. Is the game... Okay, the game is capturing. Let me change the size here. Also, let me... Maybe, like, I can make the game a little bit wider, perhaps? Like, how does that look? That's probably fine. Yeah, exactly. Like, the patches are massive, and really, like, I only have several hours to dedicate to gaming on some nights. And I don't have time. Thank you for the follow, Just Day. I don't have the time to wait for said game to finish downloading and then also still have time to play the game and enjoy it that evening. Like, basically, I'm having to throw away an entire day because I don't have the time to play the game because I have to wait for it to finish downloading its patch. And then who's to say they'll even be in the mood to play your game the following day? Like, I only get to enjoy your game however many times a week. And one of those times has to be dedicated towards waiting. No one likes to wait. This, like, literally just like the human psyche, no one likes to just stand in line at a queue. And that's kind of like, or if someone tells you, hey, stand in this one spot and do nothing until I tell you you can move. We're gonna get antsy. We're gonna want to do something. I mean, maybe some people have like some zen way of being meditative and just enjoying every moment of every day. I'm not like that. I have stuff I want to be doing. I have, like, if I'm not doing something, and maybe this is like some psychological thing that I have personally, maybe I have ADHD, who knows, but like, I need to be doing something at all times, constantly. Like, I don't care if it's scrolling Twitter or Discord, like, I need stimulation. Oh yeah, internet companies are also kind of to blame, because here's the problem with internet companies, at least in the US, in my experience, but also like definitely 100% in other places too. Internet companies love to monopolize, and it's not a true monopoly because technically, like, there's another competitor, but they kind of have their areas, you know, their areas of influence. Think of it like gangs, you know, like we got like our two criminal, whatchamacallem, syndicates. We got our two criminal syndicates, and like each of them kind of controls like a neighborhood. And think of that as internet companies, you know, each county, I guess, is kind of like a neighborhood because they kind of like own an entire region and no other competitors can really move in there. And because they kind of own the entire region, because no one has any other options, they don't have incentive to give you the best service possible. Because it's like, you either get our shit service or you get nothing. So like, we're gonna put the bare minimum effort into getting you what you want. And yeah. Now as for me, I do have pretty good internet. I will say, like, my internet, probably best internet I've had in my life. But yeah, it's still just, yeah. Like, because again, we have two things that both have to be true in order for me to play your game. I have to, A, have the time to play your game, and B, have interest in playing your game. Holy shit. That's not surprising, but also holy shit. Yeah. Internet companies are fucking bastards. But yeah, like, no one, like, yeah, I have to both have the time and the interest. Because on some days, I don't really feel like playing an open world MMO. I feel like playing... what? Like... I feel like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! That night. Who am I kidding? I'm always feeling like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But you get the gist. Like, that's the general idea, right? Is like, I only have so much time in my life, and I also have to maintain interest in doing this thing. So I'm not necessarily going to... yeah, again, like, I have to spend basically an entire day waiting for a download to finish, and then I have to want to play it the following day. And that's not a guarantee. That's not entirely always going to happen. So, yeah. Yeah. Shit sucks. And this is why games need to be smaller. Yeah, that's another thing too, you know? Games are an investment, and especially the free-to-play games. The free-to-play games love eating up your time. Because that's how they get you to spend more money, you know? You either... like... you either grind or you spend money to save time on the grind. Because, again, they're kind of counting. Like, that's the thing about gacha games. They are counting on you not having all that much free time in your life to play their game. Because if you don't have several hours to do that, yeah, exactly. Like, free to play, because they need to make money still, it's free up front. Like, to download the game is free, but to play the game, there are two types of currency: time and money. You either dedicate however much time you have in the game. Lost connection due to inactivity. Yeah, you only have so much time during the day. And yeah. And I'll admit, I am 100% a victim of this, or perpetuate? I don't know. I am a participant in this because I play Duel Links, which is a free-to-play game that has gacha mechanics where if you want a particularly rare card, there is no way to guarantee that you can get said card. You have to spend gems, the in-game currency that you collect through playing the game, do open packs with a very low chance of pulling said card that you want. Or, of course, you could spend money on packs. And instead of having to spend time grinding away at missions and whatnot to get gems, you could instead pay money and get packs. And even then, even though you're spending money, you're not guaranteed to get the thing that you want. It's a gamble, you know, but it's not a gamble because you do still get something, right? Like, that's how they get away with it, because you still get something. Even though it's not the specific thing that you wanted, you spend money, you receive a reward. And yeah, that's just how it is. Yeah. And like there are like two free-to-play game economies that I've kind of noted. You know, there's Duel Links for Yu-Gi-Oh! I have no idea how Master Duel is. I have not touched Master Duel. And then there's Arena for MTG. And both those have different free-to-play economies. MTG's economy is built around wildcards. Because you do just kind of unlock packs as you go, and every time you open a pack, you get progress towards your next wildcard, and wildcards are the lifeblood of Arena's economy, because a wildcard is a guaranteed you will get the card that you want. Like, there's a mythic rare card that you want, and you have one mythic rare wild card to spend. Well, would you look at that? That card is now yours. You spend the wild card, you get the card. Simple, straightforward. Duel Links doesn't do that. Duel Links has tickets, which can only be spent on shitty little cards that no one wants. Once in a blue moon, you will get the highly coveted dream ticket, and these are the ones that you can spend on whatever your heart desires. But yeah, other than that, you're just kind of stuck with tickets, which are completely shitty, and therefore the main thing that you have to work with is packs and gems. And also, funny thing, maybe I was not looking, or maybe I wasn't looking in the right place or something, but I don't think there's a way to directly buy gems in that game. Which is kind of weird if you think about it, because you would think as a business model, it would make sense to have that be a thing. What you can do instead, of course, is buy packs. And I guess this is kind of the equivalent, because packs is, I think, the only thing you can spend gems on, right? So if you do think about it, it's like $1 for one pack, on average. That's not taking into account, sales that are constantly happening. We're talking about a specific, constant. A constant is you will always be able to spend $1 to buy one pack. I think that's what the exchange rate is. So what we're basically saying is 50 gems is equivalent to $1. There are deals where, of course, the more money you spend, the more bang for your buck you get. What games? What games, coffee mug? And, like, there are some of those deals where, like, you can spend money to buy packs, and then you get a few gems on top of that. That does occasionally happen with sales and stuff. So, yeah. Sports games, I can happily say I am not familiar with how bad those are. God. That sounds awful. Yeah, and that's another thing is like that's another thing about going back to Ubisoft and the Assassin's Creeds. You spend full price on buying a game when it releases. You spend $60 to buy this game as soon as it comes out. What do you get afterwards? You know, like, basically they try to squeeze out as much money from you as possible. Like, you still bought the game up front, and yet there are still things that are kind of locked away to you. Like, well, it's the time investment thing. Oh my god. Come on, just log in for me, please. Maybe it's the fact I'm playing on... I've selected a North American server. Maybe that's what it is? I'm not sure. But yeah, you know, there's just so much... Like, if you're spending money on a game, if you buy a game at full price, you want to not have to spend any more money on it. Like, sure, it has kind of always been the case that if you buy, say, a $60 game, and then... Well, no, that's what I'm saying, I'm talking about the modern day. I'm not talking about the old stuff. This is a recent thing that has corrupted gaming at its very core. Like, the only games I see not being affected by this shit is indie games. Every AAA game I've so far seen has been corrupted by this. And it's a recent thing. Like, that's been the case since Odyssey and Valhalla. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love the older Assassin's Creed games. They were my lifeblood as a child. I grew up with them. I adored them so very much. No, it's the modern shit that has corrupted Ubisoft and Bethesda and, like, who the fuck else? Like, all the other game companies. Yeah. You know, like, if you're buying a $60 game, you want the full game, you know? And of course, it's always been the case that if there's, like, DLC, you might have to pay a little extra. Like, you know, you pay the $60 for the game, the base game, and then the DLC releases a few months later, and the DLC is probably going to be like $10, $15. There's sometimes, more recently, this became more common, but back in the day, this wasn't as much of a thing. But the season pass, where you spend a fixed amount of money, and you get guaranteed all the DLC that comes out with the game. I believe more recently, things have changed, so season passes aren't as all-encompassing as they used to be. But, like, because I think... Correct me if I'm wrong, because, like, because of this entire issue, I have kind of steered away from modern-day AAA games. But I believe you no longer get all DLC guaranteed for a season pass. Like, I think that's the case. Yeah. Yeah, indie really is the way to go because AAA has taken a turn that is unhealthy and incredibly toxic for gaming. Because it's all about the money. It's all about the money, and if it's not about the money, it's about eating up as much of your time as possible. And frankly, that's one of the reasons why I'm very worried for Starfield. Because I'm a Bethesda fangirl, you know? I fell in love with the Elder Scrolls and everything about it. Skyrim was, and kind of still is, my lifeblood in a lot of ways. You know, I love Bethesda. I think they do good thing. They have done good things, I should say. Not presently, but in the past. And then I saw what they have planned for Starfield. And you know what I saw? The thing that stood out to me the most in all the marketing for Starfield, the thing that stood out to me the most, 1,000 explorable planets. Let me say that again. 1,000 explorable planets. We're really not going to be able to log in, are we? So let's just say, very much lowballing it here, it takes about an hour to explore each planet. Not even accounting for the time that it takes for you to jump from planet to planet and like all the various things that you might have to do on your ship for, like, you know, day-to-day maintenance or crafting or whatever it is you do in the game. That is 1,000 hours of gameplay right there. If you want to play it completionist, which, like, 100%, I cannot recommend trying to play that game as like a full exploration completionist. No one has the time for that, so I cannot recommend it. Which means Bethesda's putting all this time into making all these different planets that... So, like, the thing is, they're all going to be explored by different players, but I don't think all of them will ever be explored by one player unless that one player... Well, like, that's not true. There are people that have no time in their life, that have no time to do anything but game in their lives. So they will really just, like, probably after the first day of launch, just have explored every single planet. But I think your average player is not going to visit every single one of those planets. But there's a desire to. Like, Bethesda has to... They have to give you an incentive, you know? Because otherwise it's just set dressing. Like, oh, look at all these planets you can explore. And it's like, is there anything I get from going there? It's like, you get the joy of adventure. It's like, okay, is there anything concrete that I get when I go there? Like, do I get resources? Do I get experience points? Can I meet certain people and get certain quests? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like, it's really this thing, right, of, I guess, like, nothing is telling you have to 100% complete a game. Nothing tells you that. The only reason you want to is because there's like a psychological aspect to it, you know? If there's a game that you can, like, it's the fear of leaving stones unturned, I guess. It's FOMO. It's the fear of missing out. Like, you're going to play Starfield, get to, like, you're gonna maybe do a little bit of exploring, but then you're gonna start to feel overwhelmed by the number of options, and you're gonna be hardly touching the main quest at all, and so you're gonna start following the main quest, which is probably gonna lead you through a select few number of planets, if I had to guess. It's entirely possible that the main quest is just, like, something that unravels as you explore throughout the game, and that would be a great way to do the main quest, to be honest. But how likely is that to happen, really? But still, you know, there's like the fear of leaving stones unturned, because if you play through a game and you reach your limit, you know, you reach that threshold of you're kind of bored of it. You've had your fun, it's been an enjoyable experience, but if you play it any further, you're gonna get sick of it. And then you look online at other people that are playing the game, and they come across things that you have not seen in your travels because they visited planets that you simply did not have time to explore. And then you're gonna feel bad because you didn't explore every single planet. You did not complete that entire checklist because you did not have 1,000 plus hours to dedicate to playing this game, and other people are gonna discover things that you haven't. And, like, maybe an argument can be made that this was an active decision made on Bethesda's part, and it is not intended that you should go to every single planet and explore it. It's just kind of intended that you're just supposed to take the game at your own pace and explore as you feel, because that is the reality of kind of the philosophy behind a space travel game, you know? You're going to have a community of all these different astronauts, all traveling all around the world, or all around the galaxy or universe or whatever. We're gonna have, yeah, all this stuff, all these people going all around, and exploration is not for one person. At least not for exploring, well, frankly, not exploring anything. Like, no single person has explored a continent all on their own. And equally so, no single person is going to explore the entire galaxy. So exploration is a team effort. And you kind of rely on this database where other people go to a place, see a thing, they record that thing, and they upload it to the database. The database in question, by the way, is the internet. You know, you find their gameplay of it on YouTube, or their clips of it on TikTok, or their threads about it on Twitter. And so you didn't go to this place, but they did, and they enjoyed their experience, and they shared their experience, and that compels you to go if you so choose. Or you can accept that this wasn't an adventure for you. This was an adventure for this other person. But of course here I'm getting into just kind of like a general design philosophy that could be applied to Starfield in theory, but isn't necessarily going to be applied. Yeah, like... Because... I don't know. I hear, like... Design philosophy is very important for single-player games, because that's, like, apparently the entire idea behind Dark Souls. You know, you're living in an unforgiving world that is not your friend, everything is trying to kill you, and you're going to die very frequently. And so the philosophy behind the game is no matter how many times you get knocked down, you get back up again, and you try it again. And maybe you need to take a break if you're really struggling in a certain spot, but eventually you will be able to get through it if you are persistent enough. And that's a design philosophy for a single-player game. So it's entirely feasible for a design philosophy to be like, you're supposed to explore some of the universe. You're not supposed to explore every single planet. That'd be silly. Who has time for that? I do think there's a little bit of a flaw in that philosophy, though, because as a single-player game, especially a single-player game where the focus is exploration, I think, like, here's the main idea I have is, like, ideally, well, like, here's the thing. If we're talking 1,000 explorable planets, a lot of this is going to be procedurally generated, right? Because Bethesda is not going to dedicate their entire, like, everyone to just be like, okay, each of you, we're gonna have, like, you design this entire planet in its entirety exactly as detailed as Skyrim is, and you're gonna do this planet, and you're gonna do this planet, and, like, the game would take 100 years to finish if they did that. So of course they're gonna employ procedural generation for a lot of these, which unfortunately means I feel like we're gonna have a lot of emptiness. And this comes back to the point I was making earlier, where in Skyrim, the map world is smaller than you think it is. Actually, an even better example of this would be Fallout 4. Fallout 4's map is tiny, minuscule. Like, it's really not that big in the grand scheme of things, and yet it feels big because there's depth to it. That's what a world needs, is depth, because that's how you get this small world space that doesn't take up too much space on your hard drive, but it's incredibly detailed, and you're gonna get lost in the world, and you're going to just immerse yourself in the experience, and while you're in there, it's like, that's how you're just gonna feel, like, as you're there. Yeah, we're just not gonna be able to log in, are we? I'm just gonna have character creation a different day, I suppose, maybe next week. But yeah, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. Yeah, that's the thing. Back to Starfield. If we're having, like, Bethesda's buying into the bigger is better, which is heartbreaking, because Bethesda I have always held in high regard as the game company that knows how to make a world. Like, they know how to make a single-player open-world experience where the world feels handcrafted, and a lot of thought is put into constructing that world. But instead of doing that, Bethesda has decided, you know what, bigger is better. Players want to explore as much of the entire universe as they possibly can, so we're going to make 1,000 different planets, but of course we don't have time to handcraft 1,000 different planets, so we're going to procedurally generate 1,000 different planets, and like, many of them are probably not going to even have any kind of settlements on them. It's just going to be rocks. And like, that's it. Just rocks. And like, bigger isn't better. I think the better way to do it would be, instead of having, say, 1,000 planets and all of them are procedurally generated except for maybe the ones that have to do with the main quest, instead of doing that, we have 10 planets. Or even 5. Like, 5 planets. All of them very fleshed out. All of them with, like, particular specific environments, you know, like, of course we could have, like, the realistic approach and be like, every single planet's gonna have multiple series of biomes. Take, for example, Earth itself has several different biomes, you know? We've got swamps, we've got mountains, we've got plains, we've got, like, beaches, we've got, fuck it, I'm running out of ideas. But you get the point. Earth. Deserts. How am I forgetting deserts? Earth has many different biomes, you know, and that's just one planet. Of course, we could also take the Star Wars approach and say every single planet is one singular massive biome. So, like, Dagobah is a swamp planet. Endor is a forest planet. You know, like, well, it may not necessarily make sense scientifically, at least, like, you can suspend your imagination in this science fiction world because you're at least enjoying the fact that, you know, I'm going to go to this one planet and this one planet is just full of, like, rocky mountains, while the other planet is full of, like, say, a lot of fauna with, like, weird things, you know, like, these little ideas, like, each planet could be dedicated to a certain thing. And you know what? I think Bethesda would be perfect for that. Because Bethesda has demonstrated in, like, they've demonstrated in their construction of Skyrim and Fallout 4, and yes, even in Fallout 76, they are great at designing biomes that are distinct, that make you feel like you're in a different part of the world, and just take that same exact concept and apply it to planets. So, like, yeah, well, we could have 5 explorable planets, and, you know, like, yeah, 5 explorable planets, and make each of them their own self-contained biome, you know, like it, and I'll be honest, I would love to have a planet that's basically an ecumenopolis, like, Coruscant was, you know, just like an entire planet that's just like all city. That would be cool as fuck, but I will concede that that would be very difficult to make. So let's not have an ecumenopolis, especially since it seems to me that the point of this game isn't to be Star Wars, because Star Wars is a galaxy that's already explored, you know? Like, every planet on Star Wars has been mapped already, and they all have political leanings. Like, various planets, various systems are all, like, associated with, like, the Hutt crime syndicate, or they're associated with, like, the Republic or the Empire, or all these like. So Star Wars is a universe where everything has already been explored. Like, there may be a few bits and pieces here that are untouched and, like, completely uninhabited, but for the most part, everyone knows what the galaxy contains. That is not what Starfield is trying to be, at least not from what I can tell. It seems Starfield is trying to be more on the exploration side, and that makes perfect sense, you know? Like, I am not going to be playing this... Yeah, like, I'm not going to be playing this, this game where they've already explored everything, and so they just decided to convert an entire planet into a city. No, it's more along the lines of, like, there may be a few settlements here and there, maybe some permanent settlements, and thus we're gonna have, like, a large city. I believe they said in the interview with Todd Howard that the main city in the game will be the largest settlement in a Bethesda game ever. I believe that's what they said. And on top of that, we got 1,000 planets to explore. Whoopee! But yeah, like, that's just the whole thing with all of this, you know, like, we've got the ecumenopolis. No. I just felt like saying that word. I lost my train of thought. Hang on. Where was my train of thought going? Right. Because Bethesda has proven that they're good at designing individual biomes. And just apply that to 5 very distinct planets. I believe that in and of itself can get 1,000 hours worth of gameplay, and it will mean potentially a smaller file size, but it's also going to mean, like, yeah, it's also going to mean, the world's gonna have more depth. Because Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Assassin's Creed Odyssey do not have depth. They have length. You know, we've got a mile long, inch deep kind of deal. Whereas Skyrim and Fallout 4 are like several meters long and just as deep. Because, yeah, like, they are good at building world. This is honestly the last thing Bethesda has going for it. Because everyone complains about Bethesda's writing. And I don't know where to go with that because I have yet to see actual examples of what Bethesda's writing is shit. Like, it's just, I guess, cool to say Bethesda has shit writing, and so everyone jumps on that bandwagon without actually thinking of, like, actual, like, examples of where it has shit writing. But people say Bethesda are shit at writing, and so what does that leave? And of course, gameplay is another factor. You know, everyone talks about how Skyrim has like the worst boring combat ever, and I don't fully agree with that. Like, I get the sentiment. It doesn't have a lot of ground to stand on because I still enjoy the combat, even if it might be a little bit janky. But, like, all of that aside, the number one thing Bethesda is good at is world building, and if they go the direction I think they're going with Starfield, we're going to have a situation where they're basically throwing that out the window. Bethesda will have nothing left. I'm gonna wait one more loading screen cycle, and if it does not load, I'm just gonna end the stream. Yeah, like, AAA games really need to stop having dick measuring contests and start having, like, actual thought being put into, like, not thinking that bigger is better. Because bigger is definitely not better, because I don't have the time to enjoy bigger. And in fact, bigger actively harms my enjoyment because it means a lot longer load times, and it means waiting more than I'm playing because I'm having to wait for patches to download. And that's not fun. That's not gaming. That is sitting and staring at a spinning wheel with, like, maybe a pretty picture and pretty music in the background. Yeah, like, the gaming industry really needs to fucking change. It needs to go back to what it was back in, like, the 2010s. Back in those days when, like, you were, like, the early 2000s, where, like, you pay $60 for a game and you get the full game. And the game's not that big. It might take some hard drive space, but it's not going to take, like, 100 gigabytes or 200. 1 terabyte should be plenty for hard drive space. Like, gaming industry, what the fuck? Like, the best games that we have these days are the ones made by small teams of people. Like, Slay the Spire and Peglin are excellent, outstanding games that I just adore and get addicted to, and they're small and focused, and they do one thing, and they do that one thing really, really well. They're not worried about making this huge photorealistic game world that is the size of England. and has the depth of about like a kiddie swimming pool. Yeah, AAA game devs, just please fuck the write off. I'm gonna hold you to the Skyrim standard, and maybe some people are saying, oh, you shouldn't hold Skyrim in high standards. Skyrim is a very flawed game. Like, I see your point, but it really was kind of the golden age of gaming, and it really defined gaming for the future when Skyrim came out. Because, like, people say it's a buggy mess. Okay, what game isn't a buggy mess? Like, it is literally impossible to make a game that is bug-free. And while I'll say maybe Bethesda games are slightly buggier than average, I think people are blowing it a little bit out of proportion. And honestly, none of the bugs are really all that game-breaking. They might be slightly immersion-breaking if that is annoying to you, but that's really the only real issue there. And aside from that, it's like, yeah, like, it's just the reality of gaming. You're gonna have bugs, so what? Get over it. But then, yeah, so that's one argument I always hear. Then there's like the argument of like bad writing, which again, I have not seen. Alright, have a good night, coffee mug. And actually, we're gonna end the stream here too because the game refuses to load. But yeah, thank you for joining. Yeah, so I'm just saying, Skyrim is not perfect, but I don't think a perfect game exists. And generally speaking, like, I do think it's a good standard to hold games to. Like, okay, maybe it was a little bit shallow in some aspects. Maybe it took away certain RPG aspects that had existed in earlier Elder Scrolls, in earlier Elder Scrolls installments. Like, okay, sure. I can see that. You make a good point. But also that decision resulted in it selling more copies than like any other previous Bethesda game. And that's even before Bethesda started releasing the game several times over and over. Like, even before then, Skyrim was the highest selling game in Bethesda history. So say what you will about it watering down, it fucking worked, and it was a masterpiece for it, because we got something that people fell in love with and enjoyed, and it really wasn't until, like, new games started coming out that people stopped loving Skyrim as much. Because I hear, like, a lot of complaints are like people comparing Skyrim to like Dark Souls. Like, Dark Souls has much better combat, or like, I don't know, like they compare it to Witcher 3 maybe, or whatever, just like all these different examples. And it's like, these are games that came out after Skyrim. Like, okay, Dark Souls, the original Dark Souls, I believe, was before Skyrim. It was like, what, 2009, 2010, around there. So, okay, sure. But even then, you know, like, Dark Souls 3 was kind of around that time period. And all this is, again, just stuff that has been influenced by Skyrim. So I'm holding Bethesda to the Skyrim standard. Make your world small and fleshed out. make it an enjoyable exploratory experience that is not too deep, but also not too shallow, gives you enough time to reflect on yourself and the game that you're playing, but also enough entertainment and enough distractions so that you veer off the main path. So that you want to go and explore that cave that you just discovered with, like, blood leading up to the entryway, or, like, you want to go and explore that town that's, like, just down the road. It's a little bit of a detour from where you're headed. I want that kind of exploration experience. And I'm gonna be massively disappointed if Bethesda in, like, Starfield and especially Elder Scrolls 6 throws that out the window for the bigger is better mentality that Ubisoft has taken with their games. AAA gaming industry is fucked. What can I say? And that is where I will leave it. Unfortunately, we were not able to make our character tonight. I'm going to attempt to get this game to work and in a way where I can stream it. I'm going to try that. And if I can, then look forward to seeing this game probably next week. Because I couldn't do it today, I'm going to try it again next week. And maybe we'll get to character creation. I will get, like, my, maybe we'll get to character creation, and I'll get to making my, like, the tank character that I have in mind for the Daggerfall Covenant. Perhaps that'll be a thing. Or maybe it won't. And this will be the last you ever see of Elder Scrolls Online on this channel. But we shall see. With all that said, thank you all so much for coming. Here are my links if you want to find all the places you can support me, like on Twitter. I've got a Discord. I have Stream Elements where you can leave tips. I have a YouTube channel where I upload VODs, and I have Throne, where if you want to buy me things, you can go to Throne or recommend stuff. Yeah, those are all the places you can support me in my card. And yeah, the most direct ways if you want to financially support me are going to be subbing to my Twitch channel right here, and that gives you access to a bunch of emotes. It also, you can also leave tips on Stream Elements if you just want to do a one-time donation. Or a one-time tip, I should say. With all that said, next stream will be on... I don't know if I'm definitely not going to stream tomorrow. I don't know if I'll stream on Friday. I'm definitely going to stream on Saturday with Friday nights on Ian's channel. There it is, Ian's channel. Go follow there because that's where I will be. We'll be playing Fire Emblem Three Houses and Skyrim on Sunday as per usual. With all that said, down here in chat is our raid message, which you can copy and paste when we get to our raid target. I'm going to find one here in a minute. And if you're subbed to me, you can have access to the heart. So, who is streaming at this hour? I wonder if Firefox wants to load. I notice Firefox is pretty slow. Okay, there's a handful of people streaming tonight. Okay. Hello, Iowa. I think we're gonna raid maybe. I don't know if I've ever raided them. Give me the mute button. I want to mute the stream so it doesn't play audio on my stream. That would be awkward. That'd be awkward. Hang on. Just please mute. Quiet. There we go. That's the mute. So yeah, we're gonna stream maybe. You can use that raid message when we get there. Alright. Thank you all so much for coming. Hopefully we can get ESO to work next time. But with all that said, thank you all for coming. Bye bye.